trash now for this season. I think see, I don't even like saying that. I shouldn't even say that because
No, they're good.
no, I, this year has just been so weird for the majority of teams.
Well, let's talk
That
about that because Miami right now is home, and people think that they are bubble frauds. And
Yeah,
what's your view on that?
well, see, I don't think they're bubble frauds. I think a lot of stuff happened to them. Trading, I forgot who they traded for Oladipo.
Olenek, right?
Oladipo.
Well, they got
They
Oladipo, but he
yeah
really didn't
yeah
play. But I
that's
mean,
that's who went in. That's who
they
went.
lost some people from last year's team. They lost Olenek and they lost Jay Crowder. Was Jay
Yeah,
Crowder on that
no,
team?
yeah. Jay Crowder left though. I think he left in free agency.
But they
Um,
lost them, is my point. So they
mhm.
lost Jay and Olenek, but those were pieces last year that helped them,
Huge pieces,
right?
huge underrated pieces. Um, that I think that you trade Olenek, and I forgot who else they traded for Oladipo. Um, uh, Derrick
They didn't
Derrick
want to give
Jones
up
Jr.
Tyler Hero for James Harden.
Yeah, that's a problem. That's a problem.
So am I
Um,
supposed to take them seriously? I'm just trying to understand.
I mean, I don't know
I
why they
mean,
didn't
are
trade
people
for him.
even going to want to go to the Heat when they know that like Pat Riley didn't want to trade Tyler Hero for um James Harden? Because I feel like that actually puts a stain on like the great Pat as we know him. And Pat Riley is like one of my favorite coaches. Obviously, he was like Magic Johnson's coach, but like you got to question the competence of an org who like that was their decision making process. And
Okay.
I can even go one further because it wasn't even just James Harden. Also Kyle Lowry. They were like, oh, the Raps are asking too much for us to give up. And so
Yeah,
we're gonna and like you don't think Kyle Lowry would have been helpful?
very much so. Very much so. No, I think they've missed some stuff, but I'll play devil's advocate. Okay,
Okay.
there are certain teams that are in position to trade for certain players that when you look at them, it would make sense for them to trade for this player, that player. For example, Boston could have traded for Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, and Jimmy Butler, right?
But Boston's not a free agent destination. We know that.
I kind of disagree with that because
I wish players would go to Boston, but
you had Al
outside of
Horford that
Kyrie,
way.
who else?
Al
Yeah,
Horford, great,
like
Gordon Hayward.
but these are B level stars. These are not.
Oh, come on, come on, come on, come on. Okay, so I think you're
They're not.
saying in terms of like the
James
actual
Harden did not want to
superstars.
go. Yeah,
No
the only
need for
one,
him.
the only one who did was KG, and we know Mikhail helped out his boy Danny Ainge.
But he
But
wanted to
I'm
go.
glad it happened.
Garnett wanted to go though. That's the thing. Like,
Yeah, but he only wanted to go if Ray Allen was also going, and
yeah.
but that's it. Like since
And Paul
then,
Pierce was there.
right. But who else is wanting to go? Look, I'm not saying it's a not Boston. I like it,
Mhm.
but they don't attract free agents the way an LA team does or the Heat.
I'll agree with that.
Premier free agents.
I'll agree with that. But I
And
think
I think
it's
part of Gordon Hayward's appeal for Boston was like his former coach, right? I mean, would he have considered it if, he wasn't there? And how do
I
you feel
think
about the coach, by the way?
okay. Okay. So let me. I think he still would have gone. I think he still
Okay.
would have gone. Mainly because of the team that they had there before the actual trade. It was there. You had Jay Crowder. You had Bradley. I think those were, and Al Horford was there. So
And no one, look, I
those
love
were.
IT, but no one was trying to play with that short man. Like, they
Oh,
loved
come
him, but
on,
like,
come on.
they weren't. I love him and I hate what happened to him, but no player was looking at him like, yup, that's my guy. You
I'm
know this.
pretty sure that I'm pretty sure that people had respect for him. But and he wasn't the draw. I'll give you that.
They had
But
respect
I
for him as
think
a short guy doing his thing. They didn't have
yeah.
respect for him as like, ooh, they got IT on the other side. Threat.
Well, I think that played into his advantage though.
I
Um,
agree. I feel bad for him. I wish that
yeah,
I feel bad for him.
I think he'll be back in the league soon though. But no, I think Hayward still would have gone. Because I really don't like Miami had Dwayne Wade at the time. I think I forgot who else they had at that point. Hassan Whiteside, I think, at that point. But I don't think there was a big draw for him in Miami. So I think he
Not
still would have gone.
not not a player, but what people like about Miami is the weather and the
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
taxes.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. It's tax free state. Weather's great, so I agree. But okay, so you want to get into the coaching conversation? I do believe Brad Stevens is perfectly fine. I don't
Me
think
too. Me too.
I everyone see this is the weird
Me too.
this is the weird thing. 3 out of 4 years,
He's a
this
great coach.
man led his team
He's a
to
great
the
coach.
Eastern Conference Finals,
Yeah.
right? You have a team that I think is also still feeling a little bit of the ramifications from Kyrie leaving.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll tell you why. Because Horford ended up leaving prior to finding out that they were going to get Kimba, and Horford not being there has messed up a
But they
lot.
didn't want to pay him either.
They didn't want to pay him as much as he as Philly did, but he would have stayed had he known Kimba was going to be there. He regretted going to Philly.
Well, yeah, because Philly's a yeah.
he
Um,
he regretted going, but I think that they're feeling that, and then because of Kyrie leaving, you have Kimba in there, who is phenomenal talent, can't stay healthy though, and I think that because of that, the inconsistencies with all that is starting. You're seeing that from the last year and a half, how that's affected them.
I
Um,
also think that if I'm just being honest, like they lost to teams they probably should have lost to. Like there wasn't a time that I looked and I said, "Yep, I got the Celtics coming out the East." Like I always looked and thought they were missing a few pieces, and that's not on Brad Stevens. If anything, that's a failure on Danny Ainge's part. I don't know why they didn't get those pieces, but they didn't.
so you're talking about like the Jimmy Butlers of the world,
Whoever, just getting pieces
Paul
to make
George.
like make the roster complete. And I also think at least early in the conversation, right? I think now people accept like Tatum is going to be a superstar and he's turning into that, so you have your guy. But I think early there were still questions of, is he really a superstar or is he like your second option, right? Because they were still
Yeah,
trying to get Anthony Davis and they were still trying to get other
that's the
people.
other one.
And so anyway, my point is that there's no point in time that I've looked at the team and said they are the best team in the West and in the East, and they underachieved, right?
Mhm.
People looked at that year when they went 7 with Braun and were like, oh, so then the next year they underachieved. No, they overachieved. And
They
so,
overachieved by a lot, because
right.
you had Kyrie gone, Hayward gone. That team was led by a rookie, Jason Tatum, second year Brown, Marcus Smart, and Terry Rozier. Like, yeah, and Al Horford. So it's
Do you think
yeah.
they should have kept Terry?
Now, yes.
I
Now, yes.
know Terry's like, yeah, you bitches. Y'all thought
He
Kemba
is.
was
He
better
is.
than
He is.
me.
Well, see, you know why though? Because so the year prior to that, to Rozier's last year, he did way too much, and so did Marcus Smart. They both did this thing where, in transition, I mean, and you have the opportunity. You have the advantage. They were like, a lot of times they were leading transition 3-on-2 or whatever. They would stop on the perimeter and shoot. Both Rozier and Smart would do this. They're stopping on the perimeter and shooting instead of driving into the lane. And I think that hurt Rozier a lot. So when it came down to the decision of Kyrie's gone, do we build with Rozier? I think that played a huge factor into it, because you're looking at him and you're saying he's developing. Do you have it now? You have the opportunity to go to Kimba, who is developed. I think that's what made them say, okay, let's just go ahead, let's get Kimba, and see what he and these guys do. And like, I get it. It made sense on paper. Kimba's got to go. I love Kimba. I
I
love
don't think
Kimba.
anyone thinks Kemba should still be there anymore. I think everyone thinks that ship has sailed. But how
He's
much
a
time
myth.
does he have left on his contract?
I think it's 2 more years, if I'm not mistaken.
Hmm. I mean,
Um,
he hasn't done himself any favors. I don't know that many teams that are going to like want his contract, so that's going to be interesting.
well, teams that are rebuilding would teams that are
Yeah,
rebuilding. So you
that's
got
fair. But
if
how much is he getting paid per year?
I think he's in the neighborhood of like 25 or
Yeah, I don't
25 or
know.
30, somewhere around
I'm a rebuilding team. I want Kemba.
there. Yeah, well,
Yeah,
see,
I
that's
mean,
the thing.
I just think fans, like including Golden State fans, like sell themselves on like what their players are. So it's like, yeah, take
Yeah,
Wiggins.
yeah.
I love Andrew, but I still don't think that his contract is perceived as like,
My bad. This year, 20, 2020, 2021 season, he's making 34.
yeah, like no.
Next year he makes 36. The year after he makes 37.
Oh, y'all are not moving Kemba.
God dang. Yeah, yeah. He's got 2 more years after this year. So yeah, that's gonna. I'll say like this. He. I think he'll get traded to a rebuilding team. So
But if they're rebuilding, why are they taking on that contract? Like teams that are rebuilding don't want to take on a lot of salary.
oh, a lot of them do. Like Brooklyn, for example. You remember that trade with Boston? They took on a hell of a lot of
Yeah,
trade
but they were getting called. They were
contracts.
getting Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett. Like, what are we saying?
Aged. That's not
And by the way,
prime.
my theory is that if Rajon Rondo would have been the point guard instead of that light skinned man over there in Brooklyn, that they would have still been playing well.
Ron Williams. Yeah.
I'm a
I
firm
agree
believer.
with that.
I am a firm believer that Rajon Rondo extended their careers because that playoff season, the last one, what was that, 2012, the last year that Ray Allen was there, and they went to 7 games in the Eastern Conference Finals with the Heat. So mad they should have won that series because they should have had game 2 that got like stolen when Rondo scored 44 points. Okay. Anyway,
Yeah, don't
but
remind me, please.
but because then Braun did that game 6 and oh,
Yeah.
God. Anyway, that was painful to watch, but remember the story of that season was like how good Kevin Garnett looked. Like
Yes.
he turned back the clock. Da, da, da. That's all Rondo. Like, of course, Garnett is a great player, but his ability to understand them, because there's mad times he wants to like run the break and he's like, okay, gotta slow it down for the like. I truly believe he extended their careers, and I think he's just a much. There was a time when Darren Williams may have been considered the better point guard, not in my book, but Rondo is a much more high IQ guy player. I think that if he's their point guard, that Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce look a lot different.
Oh yeah,
that whole team in Brooklyn. When was Sean Livingston the backup point, or what point did he become the main point guard? Was that after Kevin Garnett and Pierce left? I can't remember because Kevin Garnett stayed there for 2 years, right? Paul Pierce left after the first year and went to Washington, right?
Yeah.
So, but anyway, so yeah, I mean, Kemba ain't viewed like Kevin Garnett and
no. But okay, here's a theory. I think let's say the Clippers lose the second round. In my eyes, I think it's questionable as to whether Kawhi stays or goes. I think it's.
Where's he gonna go?
I don't know. I think it's questionable. I think
he wanted to be in LA. He left a winning situation in Toronto because he wanted to be in LA. So where's he gonna go?
Yeah.
Because first of all, someone has to either have the cap to sign him.
Well, he'll be a free agent. So
yeah, but he's gonna demand a max contract.
Yeah. What?
They got to have a lot of money to sign him. Is the point. And outright. And if not, then it's somewhere he wants to go. And then he re-signs with the Clippers and they do a sign and trade. But the only way that gets done is if the other team has assets that Jerry West determines that he wants. That's why Warriors.
OKC leads that.
Jerry West is not gonna want Kemba. He's not an idiot,
I know.
which is why when Warriors fans kept saying like, "Oh yeah," and you send Wiggins, I'm just like, why do you guys think that Jerry West would ever take Andrew Wiggins' contract, right? And
Nah.
so it's not like I think what's more likely is like maybe they tried to strip
Sort of.
out Paul George because Kawhi could pull a LeBron and be like I come back, but he
Mm-hmm.
has to go.
Mm-hmm.
But again, then it's who are you getting, right? Because he went there to compete. He's not there for a rebuild.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it's as cut and dry as people think. But again, I know they're looking for championship. And so I don't know again how much of a failure the season is if they don't
Second
reach the
half.
championship.
I in my opinion, I don't think the Clippers have a successful season if they're not at minimum Western Conference Finals. That
Agree with that.
that's like the least they can do to actually have a successful season.
I'd agree. And with this injury to AD, they have a stronger chance at it now.
Oh, that yeah, most definitely, most definitely. Well, even if AD were healthy, I personally don't believe that the Lakers were going to be in the Western Conference Finals.
I agree. But giving them the benefit of the doubt, the
Yeah,
champs, and being that the Clippers have let us down more than once, you have to at least consider it's something.
yeah. It's so I'll say this. I think the Clippers are a team that I would trade one of the smaller contracts to. Shimmy Ojale, Grant Williams type of guys. Or even if they wanted to do, which I don't really want to trade Tristan Thompson, um, but if they wanted to trade Tristan for like Zubac, right? I would like to have Zubac come off the bench to back up Williams, Robert Williams, because his injury history is really starting to scare me now.
I love him though.
I
Why can't
love
he
him.
stay healthy?
Don't know. I don't know. It's the weirdest thing, but that's the thing. I need someone. If it's not Al Horford, get me someone like Zubac or someone that can come in and still hold the fort down. Kimball Walker, to me, I think might be a candidate. Let's say for Minnesota. Minnesota is they got to blow up. They've got to blow their team up. There's nothing that they can do. I don't know what their cap situation looks like right now,
They're such a
but
dysfunctional org, so they might do something stupid, but I don't know.
shoot, they could give they could we could do straight up Kimba
Oh
Cat.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Give me
Yeah, I'm
Cat.
sure a lot of people would like that.
I don't know. I don't know what this situation looks like, but they're a team that to me I think are one of the rebuilding teams that would want to take on a bigger contract just to move the process along and get some players out to bring some in and get it done started.
But
San
they just
Antonio,
got D'Angelo Russell, so is he playing there too? Isn't he already their point guard? Why would they take Kemba?
I think
And he has an
Russell
enormous contract.
Russell to me in today's game, I think you can play him at the two if you wanted to.
You could, but him and Kemba is a super small backcourt.
It's not smaller than shoot.
Dame and CJ?
It is smaller than them, but let's say
Tell me the
who's
successful small
who's the,
backcourt.
who's Toronto's backup right now?
I don't know.
I forgot his name. I think they would probably be comparable to them though.
Yeah,
Truth be told,
but the Raptors aren't in the playoffs this year.
neither is Minnesota.
Right, but that's
I
not
don't
a
think.
recipe. That's not a recipe for them becoming a better team.
When have they ever been successful? That's my point. I don't think this is.
But you think that they just want to live and not having success?
That's what they've been doing.
Well, that's because they have idiots. But I'm saying
That's what
they
they've been doing. I don't think that there's a reason to believe that they would actually overnight become a successful team.
no, not overnight, but that's like 101. Like that small backcourt isn't gonna like Dame and
Their
CJ haven't even had
their
success.
backcourt now doesn't do anything.
Well, yeah, because I mean, one of the people are Ricky Rubio, and the other
Yeah,
is D'Angelo, and he's been out.
yeah. Look, I think they would be a team that would take the contract on. Is
because
my
you just
point.
think they're stupid. That's
Yes,
why.
they
Okay.
are.
Because there's no
Yes.
commonsensical reason for
No.
anyone to take Kemba's. Maybe the Magic, the Orlando Magic, don't don't they? But they don't have
And,
any more
and the
pieces to give.
and the warm weather would be great for Kimba's knee.
How funny would it be now if like they traded to get Markel Fultz after all that happened?
That would be hilarious. That would be hilarious. That would be hilarious. That would be weird.
Super weird.
That'd be weird, but that'd be hilarious. I think there's a lot. I think there's I don't think it's impossible. You know why? If you were able to move Westbrook's contract and John Wall's contract in the
Kemba
moment,
Walker is not as good as those guys.
hold on, hold on. I'm not saying that they're. I'm not saying he is on their
Or
level.
perception is not as good as them.
Yeah, I'm not saying he's on their level from however you want to look at it. I'm just saying in terms of the contract, because their contracts were in that range of like 33 to 36, I think, somewhere in that range. If those contracts are able to get moved, I think Kimba's is possible to move.
Anything is possible. I'm just saying I would love to see the team that does it and has real assets to give back for it.
San Antonio is another team that I could see that would take on a contract at this point.
I don't know. San Antonio is a pretty smart organization with how
they
their
are
money.
they are, but DeRozan, I don't think I think he's a free agent, right?
Yeah, I think so too.
So they don't have anyone that they're paying anything stupid to right now.
It's gonna be interesting. Want
So
to
moving to
do
San
playoff
Antonio,
predictions?
let's do a couple of predictions.
Oh, wait. I just want to know though, how do you just really quickly feel about all of the Kyrie stuff and what went down and whether there's like I've just seen a lot of different arguments. So let me not put any ideas into him, but let me just know what you think.
All right, so
And are you mad at him the way the rest of the fan base is mad at him?
I've been pissed off with him since he said what he was said, like I'm gonna stay if you would have me, and then walked. I've been pissed off with him since then.
Understandable.
Um, so let's take this. Let's separate the situations. He said he wanted to keep this strictly basketball, right?
I don't know every Kyrie quote. So when did he say that?
He's before they came to Boston for game 3. He
Okay.
said he wanted to keep. He was hoping that this. He hopes that this would stay strictly basketball and not turn
Mm-hmm.
into any subtle racism type of thing.
Right.
First game, everything's good. Everything's good. I mean, it's basketball. No one's saying anything stupid. No one's throwing anything. Nothing. None of that. You have this game 4 where they win and he decides to go and stomp on the logo. Now, I'm not saying that that's justifiable for the bottle throw. I'm not saying that means you throw
I
stuff
don't
at him.
even see why people keep talking about it. What's the relevance? I don't even think the guy saw it, to be honest. Someone came out like there's no way the guy even saw him do that.
I'm pretty sure he was up in the stands. Like, I mean, not he wasn't like a nosebleed, but he was elevated enough to be able to see that.
Was he?
Yeah, he was elevated.
But did he see it? Do we know if he saw it?
I don't know. I don't know.
Right. So I feel
I
like
don't
this
know.
is just people reaching for something.
I believe that was a cause though, because nothing was going on before that. And then as soon as you do that, you walk off the court. That's when the bottle is thrown. So, but let's keep the situation separate for a second. You going to the logo and stomping on the logo is not keeping it straight basketball. It's just not. It's not. You're showing disrespect. What?
To a logo?
No, to the organization, and to the organization. So look, this is a reason why you have players like, say for example, I forget who it was, Juju, Smith Schuster, NFL, right? He goes he goes to play Dallas and he's jumping on everybody's logo. Like I think he did in Dallas, he did it in other cities as well before he got criticized for it heavily and that he stopped doing it. But every organization found that disrespectful because you're coming in here dancing on the logo. It is disrespectful. I'm not saying that it's justifiable, but that's disrespectful. That's disrespectful to the players that came up before, and for this is an added level. This is an added hold on. This is this is an added layer, okay? He played for the organization. It's different if you're saying that Kyrie never played for Boston, right? You have no ties
They
to this.
didn't part in good on good terms.
He no one was pissed off with him in terms of the organization itself. No one said anything to him. They wanted to make sure that he wanted to stay. He made it known that he didn't want to stay.
Right. So that wasn't at the
Nothing.
organization. That was at the crass fans.
No. Kyrie was disrespectful. Whether it's a I'm not saying it's
Okay, so he didn't keep it basketball.
He didn't keep it basketball.
Well, what are your views on the person who threw the water bottle?
I think the Patriots should try and go sign him. That was one hell of an accurate throw. I'll say that. Joking aside, though, that I didn't expect to see anything like that. I didn't expect to see honestly.
Which is why I think people making an argument that it had no race behind it.
Oh, it's racist. It's racist for sure. It's racist
because to me, the level of privilege, audacity, whatever word you want to use, that you have to do that to begin with is like ridiculous. But to do it at a game a few days after several fans around the NBA have been permanently banned with a spotlight focus on this, for you to still say, I am going to throw this water bottle, that's a level of like, I'm white, I'm privileged, and who cares? Nothing can happen to me. And that is, to me, like textbook racism. And people don't understand that. I had a lot of arguments about this on Twitter, but he can operate like that and feels like it's okay to, because he lives in a society based on white supremacy. And people think racism is always overt. They think it's nigger, like cool, like he had to like yell things at him. No, him feeling that he could do that is in itself like it's built on racist ideologies. And so I gotta tell you, my response when I saw anybody talk about the logo was fuck that damn logo. Let me tell you something. I can love the Celtics all I want, but this is like people telling me about property damage when people are dying. Like no fucking logo matters to me when you're putting a Black life in harm. And like I know people think it's just a water bottle, and people are like dangerous weapon. This is when like the lawyer in me is going to come out. That is textbook assault, and a water bottle can actually hurt you, you know? So it's not about whether or not it did hurt him or the fact that a water bottle in itself isn't a weapon. It's about what it could have done. And like to me, I get people are saying like he didn't keep it about basketball, but we still don't know what was being yelled at Kyrie the whole time he was playing on the court, right? Like we're just assuming he went there, he was playing, and then he just did this. We don't know if people were still yelling things to him in the crowd. We don't know like why he went over there and did that. Like we're just assuming it was like unprompted. And even if it wasn't, it's like, how is that any different than the end of the Knicks game when Trey hushes the crowd and it's basically done, and he's just like, it's quiet as fuck in here, you know? How's that any different than Reggie Miller being like, you know? Like why is the fucking stomping on the logo so bad? We've seen NBA players be petty all the time. Like why is this the pinnacle of like disrespect?
So I'll say this. I think that one, his history with the organization in and of itself is an added layer to the whole thing.
Obviously.
I think that with him intentionally walking toward it to do that shows that's not keeping it basketball. You're not just keeping it.
It's personal on both sides.
It's a personal thing, yeah.
Okay, so but he's human.
Here's the thing. This is my favorite team, right? I'm not throwing anything at Kyrie because he stepped on the logo. I find it disrespectful. I find it something that was unnecessary and didn't there there was no reason to go out there and do that. That's not defending the guy for throwing the bottle at him. That's why I'm
I
saying, like,
understand.
to me,
You're
I'm
evaluating them as two separate acts.
two separate things, because you can't say last week, you cannot say, I hope we keep it basketball, and you don't keep it basketball.
But you can when we have no idea what transpired between the time the game started and ended. Like that's the thing. Things get yelled and said to basketball players the whole time. And like I understand that people like, well, so what? Is this new? Like they experience it all the time and think that they should just deal with it. But I think, and look, this is me giving Kyrie the benefit of the doubt because I'm someone who used to be very critical of Kyrie, right? But what I have been observing from a distance, and look, it could all be an act, and a lot of people do. I think his conscious level is rising, right? I think he's become Muslim. He even the way he spoke out during the bubble about not playing, his views on race and institutional racism and all of these things are evolving. And so when you think about how he views like through the lens of like, you know, what was it that Jackie McCollin wrote about the players one time, the way she described them, almost like they were animals or something. I forget what it was, like this language she used.
Yeah.
And he referenced it. And the way he even talked about, like, it's not right, like, we're out playing. Like, the way he sees it, and I agree with him, is that, like, they're just like the property. It's just like, black boy, go out there and entertain and do your thing and go shuck and jive for me. In this case, it's go play basketball, and that's it. And so, yes, players may get those response like taunts and things all the time, but I think that it is backwards that we just say, well, they're just supposed to deal with it and remain civil and remain respectful. And so, like, what he deals with in other arenas, I don't know. But I think part of him saying something about Boston is because he understands that it's going to be even heightened because of the history, right? And that it's already going to be heightened and more volatile, but now you add to it that it's a racist town or known to be a racist town. And so, like, whether people think that's fair or not, I'm just saying, like, I think that there's also very reasonable explanations for why he said what he did. And if he went there and we don't know, I mean, we probably would have heard about it. But what I'm saying is we don't necessarily know what was yelled at to him during the game, like whatever. So he might have just been like, yo, fuck this shit and do whatever. And he's human. And I gotta tell you, ain't nobody telling me about being civil. If you yell a bunch of fucking shit to me, I'm gonna go and do some stupid shit back to you because I don't believe in all of that. Like, oh, I'm gonna be docile while you disrespect the fuck out of me. It's not happening. You know what I'm saying? Like, and look, I remember being at a Celtics game and I was very close to the front row. And Carmelo was walking past me. This was the year that Rondo was injured and had the ACL. This was later in the season when they made the postseason. And this was like, I want to say games 3 and 4, and I had really good tickets. I was there with my boyfriend at the time, and one of those games, remember they did the stupid like black suits, like they were coming in to kill us. Remember the Knicks, that bullshit? And I remember Mello was like walking in front of me really close, and I was like, and they lost the game though, and I was like, you lost, you suck. And I mean, that's not like really a big deal, but people say a lot worse things at games. So again, I don't know. Maybe no one said anything, but I'm just saying again, everyone is assuming the worst intent. Like he said this and then he went and did this act. But a lot of things transpired in between that act. So we don't know. But either way, even if he was just being petty and being spiteful and being whatever, like I just don't see what the big deal is because I don't see how that's any different than the other disrespectful acts that players commit, is my point. Like I get that people may not like it, but I'm just saying, like, he wouldn't be the first athlete to do something disrespectful. So like in the scheme of things, like stepping on the fucking logo, Lucky, whatever it is, like stepping on the logo just does not rise to the level of me caring. Like I consider myself maybe not like you, but like I consider myself a fan of the Celtics, and I don't give a shit about no logo. Like who cares?
So I'll say this. I think that I I can't say no one said anything. I cannot say that. I feel like if someone said something remotely racist or anything to set him off, he would have talked about it in the press conference.
Maybe it wasn't that. Maybe it was something Jalen said. You know, Jalen kind of took some shots at him.
But Jalen was right though. So like
No,
here's the
Jalen
thing.
had an opinion
Jalen was right though. In my
about what he
he
insinuated that Kyrie was doing this for personal gain, but also said that he hadn't talked to Kyrie. So that's an opinion.
no he said he didn't talk to Kyrie about what he was about to say. I think he was correct in saying that the timing of it was weird because of the fact this is a
But that's
playoff
still an
game.
opinion. That's not like a right or wrong thing. That's his opinion.
I agree with his opinion then because
Right. But
my
he
thing is
alluded to, he suggested, and he didn't say Kyrie, but he kind of suggested like there was some kind of like personal gain to it. And I see
so
people saying that, but what's the gain? What does Kyrie gain personally from it?
he gains not hearing the narrative of what he did to Boston. Listen,
Like, why
listen,
do you think
listen,
he cares
listen,
about that?
listen to this. Listen, you know why I think he cares about it? Because when he came to Boston, his entire time that he played in Boston, when we went to go play Cleveland, he didn't play. It was always some reason why he didn't play.
Y'all
Injury,
really think that
this and that.
Kyrie's scared to go back to the places he used to play?
I wholeheartedly believe so.
But he's
When
gone back to Cleveland now. He hasn't gone back to
after
playing Cleveland since being in Brooklyn.
I can't say he has. I can't say he has because of the fact that he's been injured. He's always injured. So
I think
like
this is a reach. uh,
hey, look at this. It possibly is, but to me, it's the only thing that makes any type of sense to me, because when
I'd say
how about this? When he went to Brooklyn, right? The first year he's playing by himself, KD's out, right? He was supposed to play us. He's all of a sudden hurt. Then the next game, I think they went to go play. I don't know. Let's say I think it was someone like Washington or something like that. All of a sudden he's playing. Looks healthy to me.
So here's the thing. I can buy that Kyrie was avoiding and didn't want to come there. That I can buy. What I'm saying is the reason why doesn't have to be because he was just like afraid. It could be because he thinks like this fucking racist ass Boston. I don't want to go back and hear their shit. And by the way, Cleveland is also a pretty racist place. Like
How about this? America's racist. I
it
like.
is. It is. But
think that
when
Boston's
people
more racist than.
yes, but like here's the difference, right? Because New York has racist people in there, right? And Philly and whatever. But in Cleveland and in Boston, two notoriously known places,
Mhm.
right? You have a player coming back who the fans are more than regularly hostile to. So not just like they're regular level hostile, but they're mad because fans think these players owe them something and they're personally wrong. And maybe he's like, yo, fuck the NBA because if someone says some crazy shit to me, I'm gonna pull a Ron Artest. You know, maybe he's not with all of that shit. And so I'm just saying, like, we're like, it may not be about fair. He may just be like, yo, I don't want to subject myself to that. And
Which
I
is
think
fair.
and I think that's his right. So he could not, like, you can do that in a regular season game. You can't do that in the playoffs because you got to be there to help your team. So if he says something like, I don't want people to get belligerent and be racist, because maybe he's just like, I'm putting it out there to try to like cut the shit out before it comes.
I think he made it worse. To be completely honest,
And that's fair. That's a
I think
fair.
he made it completely worse because there's no way that you come in. You already know you're going to a place that doesn't like you, right? That feels like you slighted them, right? So you're going into a place like that. Why would you say anything? that would make it remotely worse for yourself. Why? And
Because
I
maybe
think
he's
I think
trying to
that's what
stop it.
Jalen's point was though.
Right,
Because
but maybe he's trying to stop it, or maybe he wants to make sure that the Celtics organization doesn't. Because when he made that statement,
which
it
one?
was the one about, I hope
Staying.
there's no belligerence
Okay.
and no racism.
All
When
right.
he made that statement, the other fan events hadn't occurred yet. So
Mm-hmm.
he made that statement. Then you had all these issues around the league,
Mm-hmm.
and then Boston. So maybe it could have also been something. And again, we're just like, I'm just saying, my first instinct is not to presume the worst. That's it. I'm not saying that there's no validity, but what I think is that people don't like Kyrie often. And so they rush to, he's such a weirdo. He's so this, he's so that. And they rush to presume the worst. And what I'm saying, it could have been because in the past, fans have acted up and they've thrown them out. They don't always receive permanent bans. They don't, and a lot of those things happen pre George Floyd and other things. And the climate is just different now. So it could have been something like he was going to spotlight. It could be something like he don't like the organization, so he wants to put it out there. It could have been something like, look, he wants to make sure that if someone does get out of hand, that he basically has put the pressure on the Celtics, right? Because do we really think that a year ago this fan would have been arrested and charged with assault? Do we really think that these fans would have gotten permanent bans? I feel like him
I think so.
I don't.
I think so.
How many permanent bans were there before? Years we've been hearing from players what Utah fans call them and the things they say.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't hear about no permanent bans.
I'm talking about this specific fan. You're talking about within Boston, the confines of Boston.
Right, but I'm just saying within general. Like I think him saying that statement put the pressure on the orgs that when things got out of control, New York had to react. Utah had to react. Remember, there were incidents all around the league.
Right.
Washington, where was it? Where did the rust thing happen? Philly.
Yeah.
Philly had to react, and now Boston had to react. Versus if he never said that, it might have been like, oh, there's going to be an investigation. We're going to look into it. Because maybe someone may have not thrown a bottle, but they might have still said something.
I see where you're going with that. And I'm not necessarily disagreeing, but his statement would have had more validity to it if it was said after those incidents.
I don't think so. I don't think you have to.
No. I'm saying in terms of the timing. I'm not saying that his general opinion didn't have any validity to it, but
if he's saying I hope there isn't, then that would have to be something in advance of, not after.
Well, no,
after it would be like, I'm disappointed that this happened.
So if he saw that these things happened across the league over the last week, right? If he saw that and then headed toward Boston, you're seeing these things and you say, I hope nothing like this, that, and the other happens. To me, that makes more sense.
Right, but he's seen this over the course of his career. It's not new.
But
NBA players just keep it, but because we haven't had fans in the arena for a long time. They're just starting to open up. We're just starting to have fans again. So like you're expecting like, okay, people are coming back. And like his position has changed. He may not be in a place anymore where he wants to accept that anymore.
Right. And see, here's the thing. I don't disagree. I don't think that I'm not saying that Kyrie doesn't have the right to say anything, right? What I'm saying though is like what Jaylen Brown was saying, the timing of it makes no sense. Because
and I just don't agree with him on that. That's all.
And the reason why I agree is because you said it at a point where I'm not saying we've never had issues with fans saying or doing things. We've had issues like that for years, especially with Utah versus Westbrook. I think IT had an issue. What was that?
Yeah, I just wanted I just wanted a soft.
I just wanted a smoothie or frosty or something. Yeah, that was a hilarious quote. like we've seen these things take place, so it's nothing new, right?
Mm-hmm.
But since that's the case, okay, like I'm not saying that can't be in the back of your mind, but what I'm saying though is if all of these things within the last week took place prior to him making that comment, to me, the timing of it makes more sense.
Yeah, but like his like your comfort level with his timing to me, and I don't mean you specifically,
Yeah, yeah,
but I
yeah.
mean this case that everyone is making to me is like irrelevant. There's no time that I don't need a trigger to talk
No,
about it.
and I agree with that. That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not saying that it's an invalid comment to make.
Right.
I'm
I think the trigger was knowing he was going back to Boston, and that's it. And he knows like what kind of place Boston is, and it's going to
right,
be an even extra more hostile environment. That's all
right,
I'm saying. And I think that was the trigger, and I think that was enough for the timing. And the fact that people think like that it's weird or he's dealt with it before or why, like to me, that's not a Kyrie issue. That's other people assuming the worst about Kyrie. Now,
yeah,
by the way, all of you guys could be right. All of you guys could be right. But I just really think it was enough that he was going back to Boston. We know what Boston is like, whether other players want to say, because Marcus Smart said, yeah, I've heard things, you know.
How about this? He was leaving the TD Garden after I think the team. I want to say the team actually lost, and he stopped to allow. Like, he was driving out of the parking lot, stopped to allow a lady to walk, and she I want to say she ended up calling him a nigga or
Yeah, no,
something.
I
So
know. And Bill Russell spoke on this about the fans. So,
yeah,
but here's the thing,
it's
right?
there is a history there. Is a
Right.
history
So
there. Yeah.
that's why I hated Jason Tatum's statement. He just completely tried to like avoid the whole thing and not take a position either way.
Mm-hmm.
And I respect Jalen
What
for
was
taking
his quote?
it was like word foolishness. Like it was just like a bunch of words that meant nothing. Like he just basically was like, "Oh, I think this is what Kyrie is trying to say, and we want everyone to be good, but like all fans aren't like racist." And he didn't want to take a position. He clearly wanted to avoid taking any kind of hard stance. And I do understand young players and their career kind of being like that. They're not always confident and speaking. And isn't Jason? He's not.
Jason's 23.
He's 23, but also
22,
isn't he?
23, something.
Is one of his parents white or they're both black?
Mm-mm. They're both
Okay.
black. Yeah, I think his mom is lighter skinned, but
I always think those issues are interesting for like even a player like Trey, like some of them who have like white, who might be mixed or biracial. But I just think that Jalen, like many people, have a view on Kyrie, whether it's valid or not. And he obviously has a different relationship with Kyrie, so he's more informed to have a view on him than anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
I think he has a certain view on Kyrie.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that informed his position, right? Like versus another player, if they would have said that, right? And if that player was known to always speak like that, right? Or something, no one would have presumed anything. I think it's because it's Kyrie why people are like giving it more scrutiny and are not as willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. And I understand why people would think that. I do. I really do. I'm just not. But my bigger annoyance was everyone talking about Lucky, the fucking logo, like that. Like I don't give a shit about that logo. So I don't want to hear about that. And it was the other thing that was really driving me crazy was the amount of Black people, more so men, but just the sheer volume of Black people like trying to like I don't know, like say that this wasn't racism. And I was just like, what? you know?
Well, yeah, and like it's definitely a racist thing. Like, it's there's no question about it. But I think that this situation is it has so many layers to it. Like that's why like it's hard to say what a specific thing is. I think for certain people, for everyone to agree on XYZ, because
I agree, but I think if it's any other player but Kyrie, people would say it's racist. I think if it was LeBron, everyone would say it's racist. And if your decision of whether the act is racist is based on the player, then
I would agree with that. I think that is an issue. Because the same thing with Westbrook with popcorn being thrown at him. That was racist. You know like
The guy spitting
and
on Trey. It was racist.
that's
It's
yeah, it's
all
all
white
racist.
people
Yeah, yeah,
doing these things to black athletes, and
yeah,
we're calling into question whether it's racist or just pissy fans. Then why the
yeah,
fuck aren't any black fans doing it, or
yeah.
Spanish speaking fans, or Asian fans? And by the way, some of those people are racist too. But I'm
Oh
just
yeah,
saying, it's always the white fans.
yeah. And I think it's an issue for sure. It's I just I think that you're talking about going
It's
back to what
layered.
Jalen. It's layered, but going back to what you was about what Jalen's quote was, I think that he was more so focused on the fact that he knew Kyrie was going to feel uncomfortable coming back there, and where he benefits from doing something like saying something like that ahead of time is the fact that the narrative on a media scale would shift from just him going back to Boston.
But who cares if he benefits from it if the reason he is uncomfortable about coming back there is because he's worried about racist statements? Like, we're all assuming that he's going to care about the other stuff the media is saying. But what if it was he doesn't want to deal with the racist shit? If I don't want to deal with racist shit when I go somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
so I make a statement to try to prevent it, and then that benefits me, right? Then why is that a bad thing? Because I benefit from it.
It's not a bad thing, but what I will say is I then want to hear you say this every other time then.
But
Like don't
the difference is that it's a amplified situation
it is amplified. But I
because
didn't
of
hear you say this again like before going to Cleveland, right? So that's where you where he throws
right.
me
But like
because
one, we don't
pick
know
and
if he went
choosing.
back to Cleveland, so we don't know. We need to
He didn't
confirm that.
play. I don't he didn't play.
Right. So we
Yeah.
don't know. But secondly, like I said, like you said, he avoided it a couple of times in Boston. And also, this is Kyrie years ago versus Kyrie now. And
Mhm.
this is definitely a different Kyrie. So
There's growth, yeah.
we have to take into account that people evolve,
Mhm.
right? And we also have to take into account the situation, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Playoff game versus a regular season game where, stake, like everything was more amped about this situation. So
Mhm.
to me, there are other factors that you could call into question that would make one want to speak about it.
Mhm.
Um, the fact that someone benefits from speaking up about something to me does not like make it like, oh, well, you're getting a benefit from it. Well, I hope so. I'm trying to make sure that people ain't yelling nigger at me. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, people talk about Kyrie all the time. Like, look at all the flack that he gets for missing games and
Mhm.
not talking to reporters and all the stuff. So I'm sorry, but I have a hard time believing he couldn't handle the level of scrutiny that was going to come from, well, he just left the Celtics. I really don't. Because
I
like
don't know. I agree. I think he could
it's
have
that
handled
all
it.
the time.
I think he could have handled it, but I think also it puts him in a weird position of having to discuss that and the racist thing because
But
they're
he
still
doesn't
going to talk to
he doesn't have to because like he literally can just be like, next question, I don't want. He just has to show up. And we know we've
right,
seen
right,
Kyrie show up to podiums and not address the questions. Like
right.
he knows how to like skirt all these issues. That's why I'm just saying, like, this, what is this benefit that y'all think Kyrie gains? Like, I don't see it.
Taking attention off of him from not staying. I genuinely believe that was as petty and small as that might seem. I think that because listen, Kyrie doesn't operate within this box, right?
No.
He's out of the box. So to me, I'm more so thinking about well, Jalen saying that
I
still
would feel
being
better if y'all told me that he was just being vindictive because he don't like the Celtics and he just wanted to like shine a spotlight on them being racist. That would make more
I
sense to me than him caring about.
I think that's
um
part of it too. But I think
I haven't heard anyone make that argument.
no, I think that's a great point. I think that could be a part of it. But I think that he is just to me. I've said this a couple times though. I think Kyrie is one of those players that needs to if he's going to play in the NBA, he needs to, like, when he's going to the press for these press conferences, keep it short and sweet, and keep it
I
in
think he should.
basketball.
I think but I don't think he needs to. I think we got to stop telling people to keep things at basketball
No, no, no.
because
Let me make sure, because I don't want to get
no,
it.
that's fine.
That's not where I'm going. I'm talking about for him, because of the fact that every time he speaks about something that, I'm not saying he can't have a position on these situations or these issues, because especially stuff that happened with Little Rock, like I completely understand where he was coming from with all that stuff. I don't think that it allows him enough time to, in that press conference, to sit and say what it is he's actually trying to say, because he's not having a conversation.
Right. And
He's
he may not
it's an
even be
interview.
he may not even be fully versed on it, but him going into the press conference and saying something about it
Mm-hmm.
gets the conversation started. It puts eyes
Right.
on it and
But
it
see,
draws attention to it.
I think it would benefit him more doing that, whether it's going to KD's podcast, starting his own podcast, or whatever. Like, actually, that's why I'm almost at the point
I
where
don't
I
think
think.
so. He can do that. He can go to Katie's podcast and he can continue a discussion. Absolutely. But that's
Mhm.
never going to be a larger platform than when he's like in front of all the media and it's like on ABC, and
Mhm.
that's going to be the largest platform. That's going to have the most eyes watching because
Go to those platforms then. Like, see, like, here's my thing. I think that I've felt like this for the last 2 years or so. Kyrie is not going to be playing basketball much longer. I don't see him, because the way, like we've acknowledged, he's evolved, right? And he's thinking about things from a different perspective, and he wants to go do this, he wants to go do that in terms of helping people and stuff like that, which I find admirable. I love it. I don't have an issue with it. But I think at the same time, if that's if that's going to be your focus, i- do it. Basketball doesn't seem to be an important thing to him in
yeah, and
terms of.
I don't agree with that. And I don't like when people say it because we are making assumptions about the importance of basketball to him
Mhm.
because of what we think it should present like, you know? And so like I don't like I have no reason to question that Kyrie still loves basketball.
Mhm.
He had a 50-40-90 season this year. He's still playing at a high level,
Yeah, for
you
sure.
know. So I don't have any reason to doubt that he doesn't love basketball. The fact that he may put other things before basketball, like his family or his mental health, I
Mhm.
don't have a problem with that. I
I don't
think
either. I just think that when you're talking about, and I don't want it to get misconstrued that I'm saying that that no basketball player should be able to do anything outside of basketball. But when you're talking about when you're talking about playing basketball, and you're complaining about, let's say, something small like speaking to the media or whatever, right? It gets mundane and all that stuff. And, like, for example, like Naomi Osaka, who just pulled out from the French Open. Like, I get it. There's a mental aspect to it. I get it. But when you're complaining about things that are a part of the job in and of itself, to me, I feel almost as if he's putting so much emphasis on it, like, specifically him. I haven't seen this from anyone, maybe KD as well, but I haven't. Even KD, I think, is actually putting less emphasis on it than Kyrie. I think that when he does it as much as he says, as he does, I don't think that means. I'm not saying that he can't speak about all other things, but in terms of playing for another 10 years or so, I don't think that that's going to be his goal. I feel as if he's going to end up being a player that ends up calling it a career early, so that he can go and do those other things. And I'm perfectly fine with it. I mean, you've already won a championship. You're on a team that could possibly win another championship. I personally don't believe that the Nets are going to win, but I think it's possible that he could win another ring before he retires.
Or maybe Kyrie could just be changing the way athletes conduct themselves, like in professional careers, you know?
It's
Um,
possible, but
yeah, I
at
mean,
the
I
same
just
time, I
I
think
don't know why we all go to the conclusion of I don't think he's gonna be like I guess as someone who has been like dissatisfied in their job before, to
mhm,
me, he doesn't show like the hallmarks of someone that doesn't want to do something anymore, right? Like to
mhm.
me, this is like educators who I know who love education, but have a lot of issues with education policy and want to change
True,
things, right?
true.
And they still keep being educators and they still keep working on it, but it doesn't stop them from advocating for, complaining about something and other things. So like I just think that he's doing it different and I don't have a problem, but I haven't seen anything and I don't know Kyrie at
Hmm.
all. So you know, everyone could be right and he might like be finished in another year or two. I don't know. But I'm just saying there's nothing really to me that makes it seem like he's retiring anytime soon. I just think that if people don't act like Kobe, you
Hmm.
know, people are like, you don't really love this, you know? And
Hmm.
I think another thing we have to consider is that he's of a different generation than Kobe. Kobe is Gen X,
Hmm.
borderline millennial. Like, I think Kobe's maybe like a year old to them. So he's Gen X.
Hmm.
And millennials, which Kyrie is, and in particularly Gen Z, because sometimes I'm floored by them in the workplace. Like they're the
I
and
just got trained by some last week, and it was Jesus Christ.
and floored. Like, look, sometimes it's like I'm impressed, and sometimes I'm just like, what the fuck is this? But
Yeah.
it's like their emphasis on putting themselves first, what they care about,
Hmm.
their individualism,
Hmm.
their mental health, they're all those things. It's just in a very different way than prior generations.
Hmm.
And he just seems to me like someone who does not want to conform. And
I
and
agree with that.
and
So
like that's just what he's gonna be.
let me say like this then. I don't have a problem with him putting emphasis on that. I've been in a place where I've ended up having to leave my job because I mentally just could not stand it. So I understand. I get that part of it. I let me frame it this way then. I think that some of the stuff that he's doing, he's going about the wrong way in terms of how he's presenting his position on certain things.
Okay. So outside of
Is
this,
that
give me an
fair?
example of one.
So one, outside of the racial aspect of Boston, uh, the way he handles the way he's handled different situations, like say for example the KD Kyrie rumor when he was still in Boston, like oh they're talking about going to go play basketball, whatever, go play in New York or whatever. Instead of just saying like man, like y'all making a big thing out of nothing. He's sitting here. I forgot what he specifically said, but he said something loosely around the fact, this loosely around. Um, it's just two guys having a conversation, and why can't I have a conversation with my friend and all this other stuff, and acting like it's nothing, and then it turns out to be something. He
So here's
promised he made promise to Cleveland that he wasn't leaving Cleveland, and then got traded. Right? I don't think the trade was his fault. That's he said he wanted to stay in Cleveland and ended up not leaving, not staying.
Yeah, but he said that, and then they brought in LeBron James, and they took the team away from him. So I think when he said that, it was real, and then the circumstances in Cleveland changed. In Boston, it's a little bit different. In Boston, it's a little bit different, and I get that. But here's the thing: people's opinions and views are allowed to change, and I
Hmm.
don't always think that Kyrie and Kevin Durant. Like I think they wanted to play together and I think they talked about it, but I don't actually think they were always on the same page because Kevin Durant was going to New York. He wanted to go to New York and Kyrie always wanted to go to the Nets. They didn't want to go to the same place.
Hmm.
So, but then some stuff happened that summer with New York and they did like some stuff. And I think Katie was like, all right, I'm not going to that shit show. And
The billboard thing.
right.
Yeah.
And so there's that. But it also could have been a thing like maybe Kyrie wants to see how things played out with, the Celtics, or maybe he was being totally disingenuous. I don't know. But I think in that situation, you have more of a right to maybe feel like, okay, he was misleading than the Cavaliers things, because I think when he said he wants to stay, I think that was genuine. And I think that facts change. And by the way, I think people can say something today and something tomorrow, because like our feelings evolve and they change and they're different.
For
And
sure.
I also think that like when players say things like that, I think what they're saying, but like maybe they need to like be coached better, is I want to stay here provided like X,
But
Y,
that's what I'm
and
saying.
Z goes. Right. But that doesn't mean that, but look, it's a catch-22 for players, because we dealt with this with KD in his last year in Golden State. There is no answer that was going to please people. If he said, you know what, I do want to leave, I plan to leave after this year, even though everyone knows it, people would talk about it. When he's just like, I don't know what I'm doing, which honestly is the most you can really say, because you're not promising, because he got killed in OKC for saying he wanted to be there, because then his position changed, right? So if he says, I want to be in Golden State when he knows he wants to leave, right, it's an issue. If he says, I don't know what I'm doing, then it's like constant. You know what I'm saying? Like there's really no right answer they can give. People are going to find an issue with how they do it, what they do. And I mean, I don't know to the extent that these people work with PR people, but I assume they do. Like someone has coached them and talked to them on what to say. And so what they're saying is like what someone has crafted for them as the best messaging. But I just don't think that there's going to be an answer, because to me, quite frankly, it should be that the media is not allowed to ask them questions about what they're going to do in the following season. It's too disruptive to the team.
Yeah.
And
No,
I,
no,
I think that's the issue more so than how they answer the question, because I don't think any answer they give is ever going to be okay.
no,
That's my
I would agree with that. Um, I think that one of the biggest things with KD is the fact that he was being hounded by the media.
He wasn't. That's a complete gross exaggeration.
He was being hounded by every okay.
He wasn't.
His last year in Golden State,
No.
every single
No.
game he wasn't being asked that.
I watch every single Warriors game, and the post game completely
No,
exaggerated that.
not post game. I'm talking about like pre game.
No, because first of all, like remember they put certain restrictions around the media. A lot of the media were not even like allowed to really be asking him certain questions or whatever. Like in the beginning, in the off season, before the season started, he got some questions. Warriors media kind of shut it down, and there were rarely questions. Even that time when he went in and blew up at the guy and was like, yeah, grow up. You come in here asking about Ethan. Like he was mad because Ethan reported that he thought when he came to Golden State and won that he would be perceived as the best player in the world. And that's true. Kevin Durant did think that. It's true. Ethan's reporting was accurate. Bleacher Report, as they often do, picked it up and they reported it in a way that made it seem like Kevin Durant said that. And Ethan never said he did, because Ethan's reporting is based on like his sources or people in the org who give it to him, right? And so that's what they gave. But the way that Bleacher Report put it out there, it made it seem like Ethan said that Kevin Durant thought this. So Kevin was like, you talk to me, kind of a thing. And so then he got mad because he hadn't been doing media for like a whole week anyway. And then he's like, I'm going to do media tonight. And he like goes in to purposely attack, Ethan. And like as it is already, like some of the players like Dre, he doesn't like Ethan because Ethan wrote this article about Dre and kind of like exposed him for a lot of the fuckery that he does. And so he basically tried to change the narrative, because if you listen to what he was saying, he never actually denied Ethan's reporting. He's just like, you come in here, you harass me, you ask people about things. And there's other reporters that cover the Warriors, like reliable reporters, like Marcus Thompson, who's Black and wrote like the book about Steph, and he wrote a book on KD and others. And Marcus was like on the podcast, like we don't even get to ask KD these questions. They don't. Like it was a total, it was a way to like switch the narrative, you know? And so he was not being asked all those questions like that. It was really shut down. They were not allowed to.
So when the whole incident between KD and Draymond took place,
Mm-hmm.
that sparked a lot of questions.
Of course, it's going to spark questions.
Right. So what I'm saying is, whether it was every game or not, to me is irrelevant. The majority of that season, he was still, whether it was being like personally asked or on
But that
ESPN,
was 2018. That wasn't 2019.
Well, that was the argument, right?
Yeah.
That was still something that was still being brought up, though.
I remember that was at the beginning of 2019. My bad. Yeah.
Yeah, that was still being brought up.
Media was talking about it, but he wasn't being asked about the blow up with Dre.
But like, listen though, when that's still going on, like ESPN or FS1 or whatever, I don't watch either one of those networks anymore because a lot of the shows.
And Kevin should probably stop watching them too.
That's his problem. That's what I'm saying. Like he needs to stop watching.
But he's not being asked the question, is what I'm saying. So there's a difference between.
That's a fair point. That's fair.
There's a difference between the media just talking about it and then people coming and asking you questions, and that's what he tried to present. Right. So you know, with Kyrie, the thing about it is like. Again, I don't know who worked with him on his coaching. Maybe it was a straight lie. Maybe it wasn't. Like, we don't know, but I understand from a fan perspective how it was like, you told us you wanted to be here and now you're not, you know? Like, I mean, if you think of it like a relationship, we have all told partners things, right, that we want, and then it changed, but you weren't lying in the moment. You weren't being deceitful. There was sometimes people are just liars. I'm not saying that, but we also know the line, every single human, of like where you weren't lying, but like the way it looks after the fact looks like you were being misleading. So that's all I'm saying. So I definitely understand Boston fans being upset. Cleveland fans, I think like if it to me, it was common sense. Like, Kyrie never loved playing like that under Bron. You know what I'm saying? So when the team was supposed to be his, and then all of a sudden he signs, and then the next thing you know, they bring back Bron, and now it's the Bron show. He didn't want to be a part of that, you know? And that's all that was. And I think it's fine. But I understand it was a little bit of a different situation in Boston. My only comment on that is that I don't really think that there's ever going to be an answer that the athlete can say that's ever going to please like the masses. It's going to be
that's with anyone. I
don't think there's going to if he would say something that you think is right, someone else is going to say, well, why didn't he just say that? Like, do you get what I'm saying? Like, it's never, so I don't think there's a way to really say like there's a right or wrong way for them to answer the questions. I just think that I mean, I guess like, look, I have opinions about people too. So I'm not saying like, don't judge or don't form an opinion or whatever, because we all do it. It's human nature. But the only thing I am saying is that we need to be careful about what the assumptions we make about what someone's actions mean. Okay. And
I agree with that.
That's like the therapy sessions in me, because I do it all the time. Like, I'll be talking to my therapist and I'm like, this happened at work, or this dude I'm dealing with, and he did this. And like, sometimes I think I'm going in and she's going to join me and be like, yeah, you know, like, no, he is trash, Natalie, like, get rid of him. And she's just like completely like flips the script. I'm like, but wait a minute. No, Natalie. Like, why do you think this means this? Like, why are you assuming this? And this is something we do as humans. Like, we assume a certain action means this. And when we are personally invested in something, when we take things personally, and as fans, we take it personally.
Oh, yeah.
But we really shouldn't, but we do, then it builds up that hostility, is all I'm saying. And so part of me saying that I'm not going to assume the worst about Kyrie is part of just what I've been learning to change about myself in general, and I'm choosing, that's part of it, but it's also because to me from a distance, I'm watching someone evolve and change, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm watching someone have to do that in front of the public,
Yeah.
right? And that's something, because let me tell you something. I've in the last year or two, I have changed so much, right? But like the number of times I've said to listen, like, yeah, I'm not gonna do this, and then I change and I do something else. But I get to do that without the judgment of like the whole world or like something like that he doesn't. So I am not gonna like kill him and get on him and presume all kinds of things about him. Now, look, people could say, well, this is like hypocrisy from you, Natalie, because you assume every bad thing about LeBron and la 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 la. And that would be a fair assessment.
Well, see, like, I agree with that. I think that with
Lighting.
Kyrie, that for me, I keep it basketball. I keep it strictly basketball when we're talking about Kyrie, because and all these athletes, I don't go into the personal thing. I've seen people go on and say that they think he has a mental issue or whatever. I have no stake in that. I honestly don't know if he does or not, but I can say that something looks like something, but I'm not going to put that out there because I don't have anything to support that. What I can say as a basketball fan, as a Celtics fan, what I can say about Kyrie is that he does way too much. He does. He does way too much when he doesn't have to. That's the point. And I think that he brings on more scrutiny than he needs to. And now that adds to whatever else he's dealing with.
Understood. Warriors fans said the same thing about Kevin Durant in his final year. Like, we
Mm-hmm.
thought that the way that he handled situations brought on more. So
It
I
did.
get that. But like that's also like his choice,
Yeah.
and like it just is what it is, like if that's what he wants to do. Like, look, like Kevin Durant's different, and so is Kyrie, and that's probably why they're friends and why they're playing, on the Nets. Because I mean, like Kevin Durant responded to me the other day on Instagram and said I was lying. Like, I said I made a comment about him, and he responded and said lies, and then he deleted it really quickly. So
But see,
I
that's
don't
what I'm saying. Like that's
I don't know why he deleted it. And I mean, I do know, I think I know why, but whatever. I'm not gonna, but I'm just saying, he goes into spaces like with us among the common folk, and he's like in spaces. Like he operates differently. And some people criticize that, and I find it fascinating. Like, he's just different. And I think Kyrie's just different.
yeah.
And I actually really like am admiring this journey he's making now, And I'm saying that as someone who used to really be critical of Kyrie. I'm just like, oh my God. Like, he's just the same kind of stuff. He used to say the same things.
I'm gonna be completely honest. I think this is the reason. Like for me, I'm not like I haven't said anything on social media about Kyrie
Right.
outside of the other day. Like before Game 4, I said something about I'm so glad I didn't buy those Kyrie fives when I was thinking about it because I was this close to buying these like Celtics themed Kyrie fives, but I was like I had trust issues with it because I was like I don't know if he's staying, so I don't want to be too committed to him. But
Right.
then it was like, and so I just said, let me just leave it alone. Let me wait until we get word, whatever, and then I'll go get him if he stays. Um,
Forgive
but
me. I'm here. I'm just plugging in my laptop.
oh no, you're good. I I didn't want to. I don't say anything about him on a personal level because it doesn't make any sense. Keep it basketball, and that's I think as long as you keep it basketball, you're not going to go into these spaces where it's you putting yourself out there to say anything negative about a person. I don't I agree. I'm cool with Kyrie saying, having the ability to say whatever he wants to say. I'm all for it. But then you can't get mad when people voice their opinion about what you just said. You know what I'm saying? And he's been doing that for the last 2 years, where he's pissed that the Celtics fans reacted to him saying, "If you'll have me, I plan to resign." And it's not like he just randomly said this. This was at a Celtics event before the season started.
I
Gordon Hayward sitting in a chair, Al Horford sitting in another chair behind him, and they're all just like hype. If you'll have
look,
me, I
I
plan to
get
resign.
it.
You
The
can't
person said
sit
they
here
want to be with you, and then they left and they broke up with you.
but you can't sit here and say this and then act as if nothing's wrong when you leave. You're right to leave. Cool. Perfectly fine with it. I don't have any issues with it. But then once you leave, you can't get mad that Celtics fans don't like you.
Is he upset that Celtics fans don't like him?
He has taken it personal. That's what I'm saying. Like
But is that what he takes? I mean, is that what he takes personal? I mean, there's a lot of attacks on Kyrie. It's not just like
yeah.
that. It's flat earther or whatever he said, and
No,
or
that see, I personally don't talk about Kyrie anymore. I like
right, but I'm just saying those are the kinds of things. Like
yeah,
it's calling into question his mental health, and
right,
it's
which I don't
you
agree
know
with.
right, there's a lot that comes at him. So I don't know that like for that one individual thing that he doesn't understand why fans might be upset. But I think maybe he just conflates all of that together, right? And so it's kind of
That's an
like
issue.
and so it's kind of like the world's against him. But I
Yeah,
mean, I
that's an
don't know.
issue. Like
Maybe
I get not uh uh um I get you want to keep things basketball, and I'm like, again,
look,
that's
I
how.
think Celtics fans are right to feel the way that they feel. Like I hated Ray Allen when he left to go to the Heat. And by the way, I understood when people were mad at KD to come to Golden State. I defended
Oh, I
KD.
was beyond pissed with KD at
I
that point.
defended KD's right to do it. Some of the response from fans were based in racism,
Oh yeah.
and particularly fans in OKC, because there's this like this entitlement that people think that they have to like black athletes. But then there was also a lot of people just pissed because like they were Braun fans and they felt like it meant like he was not going to get another ring, and there were like right, so there are people who had a lot of disingenuous motives but tried to present it as like something else. And Katie and Steph were penalized for playing together. They were never ever considered MVP candidates during that time. Like one year, they both had incredible seasons and were both second team All NBA, right? It was like, so they were penalized. Like they took a hit for their careers and their legacies for no reason except that people didn't like his choice, which was not fair. And that's what I defended. But I understood people getting like upset because like we're fans and we're invested in whatever, and none of this stuff is like the proper response, but like fandom is not rational, right? Like
Yeah.
fan is short for fanatic, and
Yeah.
so it's like me personally, if I'm just going to keep it a buck, like I thought it was wild that Katie was leaving because like I don't believe in the whole like you need to stay loyal to an organization because what if that organization is dysfunctional? So I don't believe that. But what I thought was wild was like the same reason I thought Ray Allen was wild for going to the Heat. Me personally, individually, as a competitive person, I individually would not be able to be like, I'm going to play with the dudes that beat me, which is hard because I think prior to that series, Kevin Durant was planning to come to Golden State. I think he wanted to, and I think he had basketball reasons why he wanted to come. So it ended up kind of being, I think, a complicated situation when they met up in the Western Conference Finals, because I think he had decided and wanted to leave to go to Golden State anyway. But what happened is he played them and they gave up a 3-1 lead to Steph. And so in that kind of situation, people are thinking like, what? How do you not want to run it back? How do you not want to come back and beat him, right? The same thing that like Kevin Garnett and those guys felt. But like people didn't have the ability to like consider anything else. They were just like, oh, he's weak, he's a cupcake, he's this. But like, what if he really just loves the way Golden State plays basketball? And what if he really just. So it was like it was like something that complicated a situation that I think was honestly a decision that he already made, if I'm being real. Because the reports of him coming to Golden State and it being a possibility had been reported on much earlier in the season. And so it was just like a weird situation. Like I thought like if he was going to leave OKC, go to the Clippers, because I felt like with Chris Paul over there and Blake and you add him, and I thought like and being that Golden State and the Clippers already kind of had like this rivalry at the time, like while it wouldn't have been OKC, it could have been like his payback to get back, and right. So I actually thought that like from a like going to a good place and still kind of being able to get back at Golden State, I thought that made sense. But of course, I wanted him on my team. He's Kevin Durant. And so like I understood all the different arguments, and at the same time, I defended his right to make that decision. And that's how I feel about Kyrie too. I can understand all the different perspectives and still like defend what he does.